Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight, this evening at Calling City Hall. I'm really excited about the guests that we have with us. We have, I believe, a first-timer with Councilmember Rick Cheatham. Thank you, Rick, for being here. Rick's been on the road, and he's made a mad dash back so he could be on TV with us. So I appreciate Rick's efforts there. It's fantastic. It's great to have him. Really is good to have Rick with us tonight.
Thank you.
And we have with us our zoo director, Peter Pruitt. Peter, thanks for being with us.
Good evening, both of you.
You're an old. You got this one, don't
Becoming
you?
a professional.
Yeah, you've been here.
This is great. Just follow us.
I'm just pretty excited about tonight's show. It's going to be, I believe, a good one. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer any questions you have. If we don't know the answers, we're going to turn it over to Peter, and he'll give you the answers. And so 234-6282, that would be the phone number to call. It's great to have you. So, Peter, the zoo is incredible. You've been here 3 years now, I think?
June will be the end of my fourth official year.
End of your fourth official year, and you've taken the zoo from one place to another. It's just been awesome, and it's just getting better and better every year. So
yeah,
let's talk a little bit about the zoo. What are you doing there? When do you open?
So we opened Saturday, March 31st. Typically we open on April 1st or the first Saturday of April, and since it's April 1st was Sunday, we just squeezed in March 31st, gave us an extra day there, and it was a really fun day. The weather really did cooperate. It was a little overcast, but it was really nice. We had our Zoo Idaho Zoological Society worked with the Elks Lodge to do Easter egg hunt just right north of the zoo in Lower Ross Park. Then we had a little Easter egg hunt here at the zoo too. It was a really fun time, had a nice line out waiting for the zoo to open up, so these kids got Easter eggs out in the park, and then they got some Easter eggs up in the zoo. So it was a really good start for our year.
That's great. That's great. You've done incredible things there at the zoo. Let's talk about some of those things, though. We've got a major project going on with wetlands.
Yes.
This spring.
This spring. This is really exciting. So last fall we were able to get the bison and pronghorn out into their new exhibit. We've just got a little bit yet to finish with that, a couple shade structures, because up on that upper bench it gets pretty hot there, and we need some shade for these guys. We've got all the chain link fence down off of that old 8-acre exhibit. We've started to pull some poles. We will, in 2 weeks, we'll actually bring in a larger excavator and start moving some of the big lava basalt rocks out of the way that we can, and basically pull as many of those galvanized posts out of that exhibit. It's 8 acres. There's a lot of perimeter fence there.
That's right.
And we've also started on a new bald eagle exhibit.
Oh, good.
So hopefully that will be done. Our maintenance guy, Gene, retires on April 30th. His favorite animal is Valkyrie, our bald eagle. Mm-hmm. So we want to try to get his last exhibit done is a bald eagle. It'll be a fun way to say goodbye, Gene, if we can get that finished off for him.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Where is the bald eagle exhibit going?
So it is going to be right next to the great horn and red-tailed hawk exhibit. We're going to almost quadruple the size of his present exhibit.
Oh,
she is fully flighted, and we really want to have. She meets the minimal requirements for exhibit size with U.S. Fish and Wildlife right now. Mm-hmm. So we want to make it a little bit bigger.
Sure.
And when we get the big equipment from Komatsu down in Salt Lake City, when they come in at the end of May, we're going to try to borrow one of their rock breakers and get some posts set up top for our sandhill crane. So we'll have our sandhill right next to the wetlands where it really belongs, and then we'll kind of slow down a little bit because we're getting a little tired, and we'll work on a third raptor exhibit and eventually tear that old round exhibit down, and then come in and do a covered pavilion and throw some rest stops right in there, some benches. That's one of the things the zoo is a nice wide open zoo, but it doesn't have a lot of rest stops in it, and we want to make sure we get places that folks can sit down and take a break and enjoy the scenery. It's a beautiful, unique landscape we have here. And we want people just to relax and enjoy.
Well, that's one thing that you have done very well, is taken advantage of that landscape and made it so the exhibits are, you can see the animals better. The animals are probably placed in better spots in the zoo to help their native.
Well, right. It's a combination of building exhibits where we can really manage them better. There's a husbandry aspect of it where we can shift them off, whereas staff we get a better view of them so we can catch potential problems much sooner. The vets will be able to come in and work with them a lot easier. And when we do that, the benefit is they're that much closer for our guests to see them. I guarantee you, with when we get the path in the bison pronghorn exhibit, people will see pronghorn 3 feet, 4 feet away for the first time. We see pronghorn all the time, but they're usually 100 yards, 500 yards away, and so you never really get a good up close look at them. Same thing with our elk. It's when you watch the elk, you know that they're not going to attack your car.
That's right.
They're going to stay behind that fence.
Exactly.
So that's a nice, comfortable way to view the elk. So that's going to be fantastic.
Absolutely.
Spring always means baby animals.
Yes.
Are you expecting any at the zoo this
So
year?
what we do here at Zoo Idaho, it acts very similar to a rescue facility or a sanctuary. We work directly with Idaho Fish and Game, and we have worked with Wyoming Fish and Game, and of course U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. The majority of the animals that we bring in are animals that we've acquired through Fish and Game or U.S. Fish that have been injured. They've picked them up as fawns, animals that can't thrive in the wild. Mm-hmm. And when we bring them in, a lot of times they're in quarantine for a 30-day minimum, because if they bring in any type of disease or parasite, it can affect the entire zoo population. So we keep them in quarantine, and the sad part about that is, since they're in quarantine for at least 30 days, when it's time for them to come out, it's usually towards the end of the season, and they've lost a little bit of their baby appeal. Now, we do think we have our Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep and one of our female pronghorn antelope are pregnant, so we very well could be dropping a lamb and a fawn this spring, and those will stay on exhibit.
So that'll be around the 1st of June.
Yes. Yep.
What's the most unusual animal at the Pocatello Zoo?
We're a strictly indigenous zoo, so all animals native to Idaho or Intermountain West, to be exact. And most unusual, honestly, is the pronghorn antelope. We're all comfortable with the pronghorn because everyone in the Intermountain have grown up with them, but they are truly one of a kind. So when you look at the scientific nomenclature, there's the family, and that's the third section, third group in the scientific name. Pronghorn antelope are the only individual in their family across the entire world. Yep. They are truly unique to North America and truly unique to our western states and southwest Canada. You will not find these guys anywhere. And they have some weird, odd adaptations. They don't have traditional antlers like elk, and they don't have traditional horns like bison or the bighorn. They've got an inner horn and an outer sheath. So every spring they shed that sheath and they just have this little solid horn underneath, and then they'll grow that sheath back. They're also evolved to run in a straight line. So they're fast. They're the second fastest land animal in the world. The cheetah's the only one faster, and it's only a couple miles an hour faster. So pronghorn are made to run, and long distances. They're not good jumpers, and they're not like the antelope in Africa that can, like a Barry Sanders when he was playing football, bounce everywhere.
Bounce back and
These
forth,
guys
yeah.
just run straight. And here's the cool part, and I started asking people this. Do you know why pronghorn run that fast? Do you know what their major predator was? way back when 100,000 years ago.
Saber-toothed tiger?
It was a cheetah.
Cheetah, okay.
Really?
The cheetah actually evolved in North America, and then during the Ice Age, they moved back across the land bridge into Asia and Africa.
Interesting.
So pronghorn evolved to run away from cheetah, and as soon as a cheetah left, there's no other predator in North America that's even half the speed of a pronghorn. So they're common to us, but every bit about them is as unique as you can get.
I think I think that personally they're one of the most beautiful animals
Yes.
I've ever been around.
Yeah,
anywhere. I find them absolutely fascinating.
Yes, and I mean they really are cool, and the fun part is going to be is when we get the pathway done around that exhibit. We have our older male buck, and then we've got a young buck named Hamlet. We call him
Satellite buck.
Yes, yeah. We got him 2 years ago from Fish and Game. Buck likes to run along the fence line, and I'm getting old and I'm not so good at running anymore. So I'll jog along the fence line and he'll jog with me. And I just can't wait until we get the pathway done and we can have our guests, especially young kids, take off running, and then Buck will race them. Guaranteed the kids will lose every time.
That is cool.
Yeah, yeah.
The nice thing about antelope too is they not only are fast, but they can do it for hours at a
For
time.
hours, yes, yes.
Yeah.
They can sustain 45 miles an hour for 10 miles.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, and that's really unheard
I've
of.
chased them at least that far.
Yeah, in an animal kingdom to run that far. Yeah,
We all have.
yeah, 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 yeah.
That's
Fascinating
unbelievable.
animal.
Really
What's the
exciting.
hardest animal to care for?
What's the hardest animal to care for here? You know, it'll probably be pronghorn and then elk and mule deer because they're herd animals, and there's always a herd dynamic involved with that. You'll have, say, our 6 female elk. The hierarchy in that group is always kind of in flux, and you'll come in and you see one girl, she's got some tuft of fur missing, and the other 4 or 5 are kind of pushing her around. And then a week later, there's another female that's in that spot, and the one that was on the low totem pole a week ago is now halfway up or might even be on top. So the herd dynamic really makes life a little bit more interesting. I will have to say, though, generally speaking, with an indigenous zoo, all native species, there's a lot of things that I don't even have to come close to worrying about when I worked with exotics, because these guys are made to be in Idaho.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit easier when we're designing exhibits and when we're actually managing them throughout the 4 different seasons.
Do you see many wild animals trying to visit the zoo?
We actually have. Last year, this is a great question. Last year we actually had a wild badger living in the back of the Bighorn sheep exhibit. He had a hole right on the lava bench. Every now, one of my team, she took a picture, and there's this little badger head sitting right out at the back of the Bighorn exhibit.
My goodness.
Of course, we've got raccoons and the rock chucks, and one of the other things is one of Gene's, our maintenance guy's job. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he walks the perimeter fence. Of course, he's checking for damage. If someone tries to cut or come. But the other thing that he's looking for is there is another badger that lives on the steppe in the area where the AMI trail is. We have a lot of good, tasty badger food in our rock chucks.
Oh yeah.
So there's always a couple spots that Gene has to close off where the badger's dug underneath, and outside of just digging a 4-foot trench and concreting it in, it's kind of tough to keep a badger out.
Sure it is.
So.
What about coyotes? We had a coyote.
Yes,
And,
we did, and what we have done, and it took. We don't know for certain what happened to our male coyote? You know, without absolute proof, it's still just all speculation. And I don't ever want to say it was definitely this, because what happens if it's not?
Yeah.
But what we've done is we've had to really cover all our bases, and it's kind of funny, we have hot wire on the outside of the exhibit and on the inside to keep our coyote off the fence line, and whatever animal is coming through the zoo off the fence line, and we've even got it on top on our overhang in case something like a cougar, because a cougar can climb that fence.
Yeah.
But it took us about 8 months to figure out. We knew that a coyote was coming in, and last winter with the snow, we had plenty of, not this winter, but the year before, we had plenty of snow. So we would come in the mornings and we could actually follow the coyote tracks out, and we found exactly where she was coming in at, and boom, fixed the situation.
Good.
So yeah.
Good. We definitely have some of them breaking in instead of all of them breaking out.
Breaking out, right. Right. In some cases, it's better to have them break in than break out.
Absolutely. Well, I would rather have that headline than the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah. So, and I've got some exciting, fun news. You know, one of our goals, many goals, is to gain accreditation through the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. And a lot of times these AZA facilities really don't work with non-accredited facilities, non-accredited zoos. I've been, with our wetlands exhibit, I've been working with the Cleveland Metro Park Zoo way over in Ohio, because a lot of the AZA zoos have been working with trumpeter swans, but there's basically 3 populations. There's the Pacific population over in Washington and Oregon, and then there's the Midwest population, Minnesota, Iowa. And those are the 2 areas that the AZA zoos have really been focusing in on. Well, they put a call out for the greater Yellowstone population, our tri-state flock. I'm talking with SSP, Species Survival Plan Coordinator from Metro Parks, and I go, you know, we're not accredited yet, but we've got the greater Yellowstone handled with our new 8-acre exhibit. And she goes, please, can you send us all the information on your wetlands construction, because there is no other zoo in the United States that's doing what you're doing.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
to throw in, there's been zoos that have little small wetlands, but nothing with 8 acres and almost 5 acres of open water. So this is going to be, in a sense, a really massive, it's been a fun project. And when it's all said and done with, in the zoo world, which hopefully will translate into the community, Southeast Idaho and the Northwest, people are going to find out that there's nothing quite like Zoo Idaho with our wetlands.
Describe exactly what the wetlands exhibit is.
So the wetlands exhibit is going in place where the old bison, elk, and pronghorn exhibit used to be, that big 8-acre exhibit right in the middle of the upper level. So you had the coyotes and the grizzly bear exhibit, and then you had to go all the way across to see the bobcat, fox, and porcupine. And you had this big, huge open space right on top of a lava bench. There was no grass growing in there, very little shade, and since it was 8 acres, no matter where you stood, the elk, the bison, the pronghorn were kitty corner from you, so you could never see them. And that exhibit has, since I've been here, has kind of perplexed me on what to do with it, because we're on that lava bench. Anything we do there, it's extremely costly because of the basalt bench. And when we first started working with Kerry and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, we were actually looking at putting the wetlands down below, because we thought, you know, it's going to be a marquee place and it's going to be really neat. So let's put it down where everyone can see. Then we're standing there looking at it and we're going, you know, there's this natural contour in that bison elk exhibit that we didn't have to do a whole lot of grading on. We're actually going to have to fill instead of cut. And that's going to be the fun part. So we took that and quadrupled the size of the wetlands and still maintained our budget, because it's less work to put the wetlands right there. And it's just going to be right across from the animal shelter. I know I've had some people already. They'll swing up to the parking lot in the animal shelter and like, where are the elk? I always came up here to see the elk. Then I just point over by the AMI trailhead. I go, you can see the bison and pronghorn right there. Oh, okay. I'm not too worried about them, me losing a potential guest because they're looking at the bison and pronghorn or the grizzly bear. They're going to see them and go, oh wow, this is fantastic. Let's go in there. And
Absolutely.
then the other fun part is I was talking with a gentleman out of the National Zoo yesterday about bighorn sheep. And during the conversation, because he just wanted to know what we have, and I was kind of explaining how we get our Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep, and we're bringing them in from the wild because we have to. That opens up the genetic pool for Rocky Mountain bighorn. Then he turned around and asked me if I wanted to get involved with the desert bighorn sheep species survival program. We do have a small population of desert bighorn in southwest Idaho. We would be, and we're going to build another exhibit because, hey, why not? Why stop building exhibits? It's a great opportunity to compare the difference between a Rocky Mountain bighorn and a desert bighorn. So we'll build another exhibit, and we will be the 6th zoo in the United States to exhibit and breed desert bighorn. Desert bighorn are endangered regionally. So they're not necessarily, as an entire species, they're not endangered yet. But without work on some of these localized populations, they could very quickly turn into endangered. And so here's 2 AZA programs that we're jumping feet first into without being accredited. So everything
incredible.
We know we're going in the right direction for accreditation, and if we're going in the right direction for accreditation, we're going in the right direction to having a world-class facility here in Pocatello.
Absolutely.
Do you have enough room?
Yes, we got 25 acres.
How much are you using?
I'm going to say we are probably using, I'm going to say 15 to 18 acres.
So you still have plenty of room to grow then.
We still have plenty of room. Yeah, I've got plenty of spots to put them. And the other cool part too is it takes a little bit of time, and some of, with the lava bench, we do have species like mountain goats that very clearly can use some of that ledge. So so these areas aren't off limits. It's just we have to figure out the clever way of getting a fence in place, and it'll be a lot of jackhammering.
It will be, but it'll be really neat to see.
It'll be super fun, yeah.
To see them
Yeah.
climbing the rocks there. And
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
That'd be
and
great.
we are finally. I would have never thought this. So for a year and a half, I've been working with sending out RFPs for our stairs for the entrance. And who knew that $25,000 was a small concrete project and no one wanted to take it? But I recruited some from Jeremy over there in City Hall, and this is what he does. He called every single contractor he knew that can do stairs and was licensed for public stairs. It took him a month and a half, but we got a company coming in hopefully as soon as the weather cooperates, and we'll get the stairs in. I'll put in. We'll change the landscaping up a little bit. I'm going to put a little bike parking lot with some bike racks down there so we can really encourage more people to bike, not only to the zoo, but the pool. And really, we really are a biking community. We've got all these mountain bike trails around us. And Ross Park is a great spot to ride your bike to, and so we start tailoring to that. And then our new Zoo Society, they've got a year underneath their belt, and they're really, last year was about kind of offering some new events and getting that all put together. They have just started an annual campaign, which is different than a capital campaign. The annual is for operating costs, and it's a simple campaign. It'll be all online, and I have to talk with Rick Satterfield to see if he's got it up on our website. But we're asking 500 people in the community to donate $100. That's $50,000 in a year. That can go a very long ways for the society and the zoo.
Oh, absolutely.
So finding new, unique, clever ways to raise money. My job is to not go overboard and do the pie in the sky exhibits, but to do the exhibits that the community can support.
So I was just going to ask you about exhibits. We talked a lot about building different exhibits and
Yeah.
stuff, and I remember when years ago we built the grizzly bear exhibit, and that was just an amazing amount of money, and,
Yep.
and a community that just came out and supported it the way
Yep.
they supported it. The city got behind it and stuff, and I think it was over $1 million for
Yep.
this grizzly bear
Yep,
exhibit.
it's a fantastic facility.
Great exhibit. It looks wonderful. It's fantastic. I mean I wouldn't like it to do it any other way than that.
Right.
But every exhibit at $1 million is a big expense.
Our community cannot support that. It took them 10 years from start to finish to
That's
get
right.
that exhibit in place. And what has happened over that 10-year time period, other aspects of the zoo didn't receive the attention they needed to receive. And so what I'm doing right now is really trying to focus in on those areas that need that attention. And once the gift shop is finished, and we've built quite a few smaller exhibits in-house because we can do that. We've got the talent not only at the zoo but within Park and Rec. You know, the street department did a fantastic job with the grading and the land and help with the landscaping out of the entrance. We just have a city, as the city entity, we've got a ton of talent just sitting around. And why not take advantage of that and run with it? You know, Merrill and Jeremy have helped me out a tremendous amount on some of these projects and getting us ready for, you know, the surveys and the engineering aspect of it. You know, so yeah, we're going to take advantage of all this talent and get a lot of stuff done on the inside using our operating budget, which then frees the society up to focus in on campaigns, capital campaigns, which then frees the city's overall budget up. I can't be coming to you guys every single time and asking for $250,000.
Sure.
You're going to get tired of it, and you're just going to say, "Don't even come to council, Peter."
We're already tired of it, and you haven't even asked.
I know it.
So, but the exhibits that you're building right now, I mean, $250,000 isn't what they're costing.
No, not one bit.
They're $20,000. They're
Yeah, so-
$15,000. They're
Yep, our bison, pronghorn, and elk exhibits. Those two exhibits, we spent right around $12,000 for material. And then two of us built them last year. So if you throw in the man hours, we might be talking $20,000 for those two exhibits.
So that's the way we are making this zoo a better one. It's easier to see the animals.
Yep.
Like you said a few minutes ago, you would walk up to the elk and bison and pronghorn exhibit, and they would always be 8 acres away in the opposite corner of where you are, and, and you couldn't really see them.
Yeah.
They'd be laying down. They didn't want to be around you, and so now where you're pushing them back up, and so they can't be 8 acres away.
No. And you
It's
really
great.
get to appreciate just how magnificent these animals are. Our bull elk, our old bull elk, is 1,100 pounds.
That is unbelievable.
And you really couldn't appreciate just how large he was when he was on the upper level.
Well, I will tell you, when I went up and I worked with the zoo, and you have an incredible staff, by the way. They're just top notch, just absolutely phenomenal. We went out and fed them, and you sitting in the truck next to this big bull elk. I'm telling you, Rick, you ought to go try it.
We don't have to do
It's,
that anymore because that was kind of scary. It wasn't, that was one of the first things I go, oh my gosh, this is the last thing I need to do is send in every other day an injury report to HR
Exactly.
because the bull elk stuck his antler in the truck cab.
Exactly right. That's so
What's
true.
the zoo hours? We're almost out of time.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
we're open on weekends, Saturday and Sunday through the month of April, 10 to 4. May 1st, we're open 7 days a week, 10 to 5. And
Good. What's admission?
$575 for adults, 12 and over, $375 for kids 3 to 11, $450 for seniors, 61 and older, and then $450 for a military discount.
Super. Great way to
Great.
spend a weekend.
A
Yeah.
great way to spend
Yeah,
the weekend.
and check
It's
out
an
our
incredible
website.
zoo.
Our education curator, Rachel, has got quite a few different ed programs this year. We're really focusing on developing our Raptor program. You can meet Athena, our red-tailed hawk, and Horace, our turkey vulture. We brought both
That's
of them
right.
down to the city hall, and she's starting to work on a lot of water quality, wetland type classes, so we've expanded those out, and we can always take volunteers.
Oh man, it's great. Check out the website, see what it is. There's all kinds of events as well. So,
Yep.
Peter, our time's up. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. Sure do appreciate what you do up there at the zoo.
It's
Thank you.
always a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us after the break. That was a really good half hour of talking about the zoo and all the things that are happening there. We have with us another guest that's very exciting to have. As far as I'm concerned, I love talking to David about the airport, and we have with us our airport director, David Allen. Thank you, David, for joining us this half hour. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm always happy to talk about the airport.
Yeah, it's a passion that he has, but he is retired. I'm going to make the announcement. It's too late. It's already out. Dave's going to leave us. He's retiring on the 20th of this month, and it's going to be a tough one to replace because he's just been incredible at the airport, and we're definitely going to miss him. We've doubled the flights in the last little while. He's worked hard, got a lot of land use applications in, and we're just waiting for things to happen. And so it's pretty exciting to talk to David about the airport and understand how airports work.
Tell us about what's happened since you've been here.
Oh, ever since I got here?
Yeah,
Okay.
From
Well,
the beginning, what it was when you started
Yeah.
and what it is today.
when I got here 10 years ago, the air passenger numbers were in decline and the Great Recession hit. I mean, I got here in June of '07, and it wasn't long after that that the recession hit. And so we were already in a decline passenger-wise. Horizon had already pulled out in '06. Big Sky quit in March of '07. I came in June of '07. It was just perfect timing.
Great timing. That's right.
It's all up from there.
Yeah, yeah. And so we looked for ways to work with Boise for a while, but we also had a problem of our own passenger numbers were in decline, and that was because our fares were significantly higher than Salt Lake and even Idaho Falls. And so we were struggling to maintain ridership. We were focused on the convenience and everything. The recession did do something good for us, though, in a way, because it changed the airline model, the business model they used. And that became an advantage to us as far as our fares, and we were able to capitalize on that, market that. And now our fares are typically less than Idaho Falls. And on par with Salt Lake, our average markup is about $150, and we can show that a business traveler will spend over $200 to drive down, pay for parking, the mileage costs, everything. So we're able to market that, and I think that's contributed to our success in the ridership increases.
I think it probably has.
Yeah.
And we've got a community that really has embraced it.
We have. The Chamber of Commerce formed that airport committee, and they were remarkable. They went out and networked with all the different business leaders and showed them how it's worth it to fly out of Pocatello, and got them very interested in that. We also did some marketing up in North area, because if it is cheaper than Idaho Falls, we were able to capitalize on that as well.
Yeah, SkyWest has been a tremendous partner for the Pocatello Airport. I was surprised at the recent Chamber of Commerce luncheon when they talked about the number of aircraft they fly and what their commitment has been working with Pocatello.
Their business model is actually better than the major carriers to me, because they work for everybody. All the major carriers, Alaska Airlines, Delta, United, I think there's another one, American, they fly for every one of the major carriers. And so, yeah, we have a very unique relationship with them in that they fly for us at risk. It's a prorate route. And they are very supportive of Pocatello. They have been over the decades that they've been here. And when we asked them for an increase, twice now we've asked them for an increase in frequency, without them seeing any real justification to do it, they did it for us. And so we're really pleased that they were able to listen to us and try to help us fill our needs.
I was reading your report yesterday, and with the new flight, you said that seats filled are at 71% as of the end of March, correct?
In March.
In March, yes.
In March, it was
Yeah.
about 71%, a little, yeah.
Is the goal 100%, or is that unrealistic?
No, we worked for an 80% goal, and we succeeded in that just prior to getting the 4th daily flight. But once we got that new 4th daily flight, our numbers did increase significantly, probably 26% over March of last year. Mm-hmm. But we increased capacity by 38%, I think it was. So we didn't fill all the seats that we were gained proportionally. So we have dropped a little bit. But that was to be expected. You can't just immediately throw a plane in there and be able to fill it, just like you've been filling the other 3 daily flights. So we do expect that number will start increasing again gradually, and that's what we're going to work towards.
If you weren't retiring in 17 days, what would your goal be for the Pocatello Airport in the future?
Additional service to Denver. I said Boise because that's what everybody wants.
Everybody wants.
Everybody wants Boise.
Why don't you explain why we won't get Boise before we get into the Denver story?
Well, and the reason we lost Boise back in '07 is because Horizon and Alaska Air Group made a decision a year or two before that Boise was no longer going to be a hub for Horizon Airlines. And once it's no longer a hub, the hub and spoke system doesn't work unless there's a hub. And so without Boise being a hub, they weren't going to carry it anymore. And so we were just one of many different airports that lost that service directly to Boise. We still have service, but it's through Salt Lake on Delta to Boise. So they were, once they did that, that was the end of Boise. We can't do it unless it's a hub, or unless I can try to convince them of doing a one-stop. And I tried to do that now several times. Alaska Airlines wasn't interested, the consultant wasn't interested, SkyWest's not interested, because it doesn't fit their model. But I think that if we had a one-stop through Boise to Seattle and back, goes out in the morning, comes back at night, it would capture our market, it could capture a lot of the Idaho Falls market, and it would fill the planes enough that we could make that viable. But I can't prove it, and they're not interested.
And so therefore you're not going to see probably a direct Boise from Pocatello, Idaho Falls, or really anywhere else because it's not a hub.
Unless some small carrier like a Pen Air or somebody
Sure.
like that, or even what Big Sky used to be.
Yeah.
But those are going to be the smaller airplanes. So we do have an advantage in that there's no mountains to climb over from here to Boise. So we could probably do that. But they're not going to do it just for us. They're going to come in and establish that hub and have service to Lewiston and to Twin Falls and Idaho Falls and us and all the other airports that could possibly support a Boise hub.
Mm-hmm.
Has part of the increase been due to the jet service
Oh,
rather
yes.
than props?
Yes, significantly. And I can't quantitate that, but I am positive that a lot of people did not like the turboprop. It wasn't their perception of real air service. It was loud. It was uncomfortable. It was turbulent. You know, a stiff wing aircraft, so it reacted to turbulence very well.
Very well. Yeah, I've dropped out of the sky a number of times in that thing.
So some people just didn't like it. They didn't consider it true service, but other people were actually afraid of it, and they might not admit that, but they were genuinely not comfortable being on that plane, and they would do what it would take to drive to somewhere else and get on a jet.
Yeah.
So I do think that once we were able to announce all jet service, that had a significant impact when we were telling them all the other information about the convenience and the fares and everything else.
What about general aviation at the airport? Is that also increasing?
No, it's not. It's starting to pick up a little bit right now, and I don't know if that's because of the FBI coming in or other people coming in. I've got probably about 4 or 5 interested people looking for hangar space. And what they did was we found out that our hangar space is very limited. It's full right now. We're at capacity. I've got one individual that's building a sizable hangar, 60 by 70, but for private use. And I've got 3 more spots, 4 or 5, if I can figure out a way to build as many on this one long lot as I can, that have already been cleared environmentally, and they're ready suitable for construction, I guess you could say. So we're going to be able to look at that with these folks. The one shortcoming right now is that we're getting ready to rehabilitate the taxi lane that fronts those. And some of them, it wouldn't even reach it yet until we do this rehabilitation. The land is out without a taxi lane to connect it. So once we get that taxi lane built, and that will happen this summer, we've got the authorization in the federal budget bill. So we're going to have all of our money coming out in a normal way, and we're going to be able to make this construction project happen. Once we do that, all of those spaces will be able to be prepared ready for construction.
How many general aviation flights do you see at the airport?
Oh,
Any idea?
no, our total operations has declined, and I attribute that to general aviation, a lot of that. Utah Helicopter, though, was a big factor for a number of years. And every time, an operation is every landing and takeoff. Either one is a count of one. So if you land and take off, that's a count of two. And Utah Helicopter, when they were in their peak, they were doing a lot of landings and taking off. That was part of their training. It was constant going. And we were able to count that as a count of one. So our traffic numbers have declined quite a bit since they were able to, since they've dropped in their training curriculum. And I don't see anything really on the near horizon as far as increasing that. There's not really this community has not embraced aviation like a lot of other communities have. I don't know if it's because it's a historical rail town or what else might be there, but there's never been that much interest, and I've never been able to work with the FBO to get interest going, other than the Skyfest that we did, the open houses where we were able to get people into the airplane for a modest cost and get them up in the air. But I don't know if that really had any tangible results. But we did put a lot of people up in the air.
That's another aspect of the airport we could talk about, is the operation of the FBO. Those guys have a lot of aircraft out there available if you need to go somewhere.
They do, and first off, FBO stands for Fixed Base Operator. It's a FAA term, but it's basically whoever services the airplane and fuels it. But it's also more broadly defined as anybody that does business out there. So Utah Helicopter is an FBO, sort of. But AvCenter is our main FBO because they're the ones that put the gas in all the aircraft. And yes, they also do flight training, and they do charter operations, and they will rent airplanes out. And so they have quite an array of aircraft, to include an Ultra Citation. The new one, I think, is called an XLS. It's a really nice plane, slightly bigger than the old Citation. And they have 2 King Airs, and they have a Aero Commander. And then they have a lot of these smaller single-engine aircraft available for rent and for training. But they also offer those charters on both King Air and the Citation Ultra. And we've taken a ride on it. It's a beautiful airplane. You go in style when you're on that jet, I will tell you that.
Yeah.
But even the King Air is a twin turboprop, and it's got a nice speed, it's a comfortable ride, and it gets you where you're going in a reasonable time.
When I was a kid, a King Air was the ultimate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the greatest ride there was in private aircraft.
It's a workhorse. It's been it's even in the military as a workhorse aircraft to shuttle people around.
Yeah, King Airs and Queen Air. Remember the old television show, Sky King? He had a Queen
Yep.
Air.
That's right. Wow.
You don't even see those anymore.
Yeah.
No, you don't, not much.
So there's development going on at the airport too. People have moved out there. It's an attractive space for industry too. What's coming there?
Yeah, in the 10 years I've been here, we've had Peterson Incorporated has been out there. That's the metal fabricating shop. Beautiful 65,000 square foot facility. Driscoll Top Hay has moved into one of our facilities. It was the old R Homes property. They invested a significant amount of money into that, and they're doing the hay compression and putting those in containers and sending them overseas to overseas locations. So there's a lot of activity just from those two alone. But, you know, we also have McNabb has had a significant presence at the airport for as long as the airport's been there, I think. And they have a sizable trucking fleet now and a lot of grain operation that they do. So that's very significant as well. We have a couple of prospects that we're looking at right now. One is a refrigerant cooling type warehouse. and another is a potato type agricultural product business, and both of those have very unique requirements. We're looking at what we can do to accommodate them, but we're very confident that we're going to be able to accommodate both of those, and we're looking forward to being able to do that.
So how big is the overall airport space?
The airport is actually 3,400 acres, total acreage. It goes everywhere from almost Truckerville Road, we're only about 400 feet short of that, all the way over to where the motocross track is, and even across the freeway, the jet stop is on airport property that is, and they lease from us, and that farmland that's over there by them. The interstate cut through after the airport was given from the DOD. And so that's why we have that property over there. We used to even have a well over there, and we abandoned that recently. So it's a sizable amount of acreage. There is a sizable amount of acreage devoted to non-aeronautical use as well, and that's key for us. We have right in the front of the airport about 700 acres that's already been released for non-aeronautical use. It's been designated as a business park. It's ready for development. We have all the utilities out there except for the fiber, which we're currently working to get. And so it's ready for development, and there's another 800 acres to the west of the both runways that's also been designated for non-aeronautical use. And that'll be available once we fill up the first group.
Tremendous opportunity for development. If a business is looking for a place to expand, with the interstate running by, with the airport there, a 9,000-foot runway available, why wouldn't you want to do business there?
You have rail.
There's rail right
as
there.
well.
You have
There's a
rail,
spur.
air, and the interstate, yes.
Yeah, we've got Pocatello has everything to offer a potential
Absolutely.
business.
There's the opportunity for clusters, which I would really love to be able to have seen, where one element brings in other elements that actually do value added, and you start working in that field or that particular industry. And I think this, because of the amount of land we have, that would be perfect for that.
You've been in the airport business a long time, besides your 10 years here. What kind of developments do other airports look for?
I've never seen an airport that had this much non-aeronautical land. Most of the time they just do small things. They'll do a hotel, or they'll do a store, or maybe some business, a small industrial park. I have seen those. I have seen even foreign trade zones on very small, not even 400 acres, maybe 300-acre parcels. So it just depends on what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and being able to capitalize on that.
I drove by the Denver airport yesterday, and there's a new hotel opening up there that must have 1,000 rooms. It was 9 or 10 stories and multiple. It was one of the biggest buildings I've seen in a long time.
Wow.
But it made me wonder when I drove by if there isn't a potential at our airport, as close as we are to Pocatello, for some kind of either a small residential type apartment complex, or perhaps just a regular apartment complex.
Apartment complexes, no.
Or, well,
But
hotels.
hotels,
what I meant, yeah.
The business park is actually set up in different zones, and the immediate zone right along the road that leads from the interstate to the terminal is for commercial use, retail, and also suitable for that kind of hotel. And then it works out to office and professional, and then industry. And so I think once you start filling these in, then the demand for a hotel will become evident, and somebody will answer that call.
I can see 2 or 3 hotels out there eventually after years, but that business park has to develop definitely beforehand. But you're right. I mean, you've stayed in a lot of places where you get in the car and drive 9 miles to wherever you're going because that's the hotel you could find.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
and that would be the same thing here. Is you're gonna, when a lot of events, our hotels are filled up almost every weekend. They're pretty full, and you add a hotel or 2 out there, it's gonna fill up. Just will. So.
Well, and our hotels in town offer shuttles out to the airport. There's no
Absolutely.
reason a hotel out there couldn't offer a shuttle into town.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the same thing.
Absolutely right.
There's been rumors over the years of complications of developments at the airport. Some of those stymied by the FAA, from what I understand. Any truth to those, Dave?
Oh, absolutely, it's true. Yeah, we were swimming along rather well when we developed Peterson in 2010, and then the rules changed. Even though the rule books didn't change, the rules changed, and we were faced with a insurmountable hurdle. And the FAA has never really relented on their interpretation of those rules yet, and we've been advocating and pushing heavily to get them to do that, and we're still working on that.
Well, the rules didn't change. What changed was, like David says, was the interpretation. The Seattle office in the FAA, they were our partner, and they worked with us. And then we were moved to the Helena office, and they interpreted those rules differently. Dave and I have been back to DC 2 or 3 times, talking to the FAA, just saying, what's changed? Where are we at? Why? What do we need to do? And we haven't been able to get a straight, solid answer from anywhere, from Helena to DC yet. And so,
So what is it that they object to?
Well, the land has been released for non-aeronautical use. Once that's done, that should be it. They should not be really concerned about that land unless it has issues with safety of flight. Mm-hmm. What they want, though, is because it's going to create, in their world, a pen and ink or a change to the airport layout plan, they require an environmental review. And the action that causes that is that they have to sign the ALP, and that's a federal action. And the rules say any federal action requires then an environmental review. But the regulations, if you look at it, that doesn't apply to non-aeronautical land. When they talk about the ALP, as far as these lands, they say that for aeronautical land, it's supposed to show all present and future projects. But for non-aeronautical land, it says only any current project, anything that's already built. And that's because they don't really care about what gets built afterwards. They're going to make that a pen and ink change, and then it gets approved on the next ALP. But it is not a driver of getting a new ALP. The new ALP happens if something aeronautical happens, if something official happens, and that's not official.
So ALP is Airport Layout Plan.
Airport Layout Plan.
So
it's a sheet of 12 that we have to abide by whenever we do anything on the airport, and it actually gives us all of our projects for the next 20 years in the master plan. Whenever we do a master plan update, and we do it about every 10 years, we also get a new ALP. Then there's an ALP updated when there's something else significant happens. And we've recently gone through that. We had some major taxiway reconfigurations to make them 90 degrees to the runway instead of some of them were like 45 obliques. Mm-hmm. And that was a safety of flight issue, so they proposed that we realign them, and we did that. Once you do something like that, and we moved one of them significantly, then that becomes an ALP change. And that was environmentally reviewed. We did the environmental review required for those projects. We always have done those. We just never had to do non-aeronautical land.
So the frustration is with the Helena office of the FAA.
No, because once they said that, everybody else up the chain has said, "Oh, well, that's what they said." And that's always been a thing with the FAA. Is it always says the rules say to the satisfaction of the administrator, that person across from me represents the administrator. So what they say goes, and if I try to go up the chain, I'm facing the same thing.
They back themselves up pretty good. And so if the administrator said, yeah, go ahead and build whatever, all the way up through to DC, that's what they'd say.
And we've talked to
But it doesn't run downhill.
No, it doesn't run downhill. I don't know how they've got it to run uphill, but they definitely have. So it doesn't. But we've talked to as far up as you can go with the FAA, really.
Well, you talked to the number 2 individual, but that was only because the number 1 had already retired or resigned.
That's right. Had resigned, and it's the acting right now. So we have done that. We're continuing to do that, and we're going to continue to move forward with things so that we can. It's an asset for our community that just is needed. We need to fill that airport.
We do.
The key is getting the airport to be self-sustaining, and that's been one of David's goals. That's been one of my goals. I think every city council has had that goal, and you run into that wall and you have to figure out a way over that wall. And so if we can get that self-sustaining, then that will be beneficial to everybody.
How close are we
To
to
being
being
self-sustaining.
self-sustaining?
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, we already do have a property tax levy that we collect, and with that, we have balanced budgets. We never don't have balanced budgets, but if we can develop that land, we'll have additional revenue, and then when you generate the industrial park, it's going to generate more air traffic. It just naturally will occur, and so everything is kind of spirals upward, if you will, and we will generate more revenue in all of our areas once we start getting that business park developed.
So that will help the taxpayers in Pocatello. It will also, because the airport lands in Power County, will help the taxpayers in Power County as well. And so we've just continued to work on developing that. And if we could, and we could reduce the general fund monies that they're going to the airport where they're doing it, that's ultimately the goal.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting closer. If we can start developing, I think we would be there. But it's been that hurdle that we need to get over.
A lot of services out there besides airlines. I saw your ad in the newspaper this morning. Free Wi-Fi, free coffee, shoe shine, water station, lending library, all things provided by businesses in Pocatello, correct?
Was that out there this
Yeah, it
morning?
was in
Yeah,
this
great.
morning's paper.
I love that ad. Yes, we do have several amenities, and we got sponsors for that. Culligan Water of Pocatello has a purified water station, so when you go in with an empty bottle, you can fill it up with really clean, clear water, and then take it with you on the airplane and anywhere else in the. You're already past the checkpoint, so you're in the zone, and you can use that. The airport provides complimentary coffee because they don't offer any kind of beverage service on the airplane. So we want to make sure there's coffee, and then there's Coke machine available, and then the water rehydration station. So we have all of that there. We have, who is it? Murphy, I think, has the shoe shine kits that they provide. And the Friends of the Marshall Library offers a lending library where you can take a book and leave a book. And people love that. We go through a lot of books there. And the Friends of the Library continue to give us more. So it's always been a really fun thing to be able to see how many books go out. And that's the kind of things we try to do to give value added to the product of what they're getting as far as just being a flight.
Yeah, I think something a lot of people need to remember is there's no parking fee.
There's no parking.
Like,
yeah.
if you drive to Salt Lake City, you're lucky. You better bring a $100 bill back with you to get your car out.
Minimum of $100 bill to get your car out.
Yeah, it's
You're right.
a great service. Any chance of running out of parking space out there for
Yes.
automobiles? When I was out there recently,
Yes.
it looked pretty
We're
full
close.
to me.
We're close
Spring break kind of burst our seams a little bit. We did a count. We were well over 400 cars out of 528 total long-term spaces. So we're already working on getting a fix with the engineers to get that into our 5-year plan. It was already there, but it was more than 5 years out because we didn't think we were going to grow this fast. And so we're trying to scramble and bring it into the closer part of that. And we'll get that done. But yeah, we're watching that carefully because spring break and Christmas are two of the big ones that we've been able to monitor, and we're going to have to keep an eye on that.
Great air service out of the Pocatello Airport. We got 4 flights a day now.
We have 4 flights a day, and we got wonderful people. That's the thing I love about it. The airline, the TSA agents, even the snack bar and the car rentals, everybody's there doing a great job trying to help everybody get whatever it is they need. And when somebody walks in, that's what we try to emphasize, is they're not just the car rentals customer or the airline. It's everybody's customer. And so if they look lost, somebody will help them. Somebody will get them where they need to go.
Somebody jumps in there. Well, I'll tell you what, we need to fill that 4th flight. Once we get that 4th flight, we just touched on it, and I interrupted you, and I apologize, but the Denver flight, and so folks, as you're driving, I know I'm begging for that Denver flight. As you're traveling, please check out Pocatello, regardless of where you go out of. Check out Pocatello, see what it looks like, and then we'll go from there. Believe it or not, Dave, time's up.
Oh,
We have
wow.
we've
Okay.
run out of time, and so we appreciate you tuning in tonight. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, David, for all you've done for the city. and all you've done for our airport. It's great. You're going to be missed. You'll definitely be missed. So thank you very much.
Mayor. Rick, thank you very much.
Thank you.